Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest, but this one is especially special guest because he is from my school, JMU. You know, I still bleed purple. Go Dukes. It's my friend, Matthew Higgins. Now, me and Matt met post-alumni life. I don't know, just randomly we connected through that JMU alumni sphere, and he actually works in development at JMU, and so his job is tasked with a lot of engaging alumni such as myself and other alum, and just making sure that we continue to engage, but also engage with our wallets. If you get what I'm saying. But before we go into the episode and talk about just engagement and all these different things, Matt, go ahead and give the listeners a little introduction of yourself.
Sure, Philip, thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to be a guest on the Positive Philter. Appreciate the positive energy you're bringing, avid listener, so appreciate it. My name is Matthew Higgins. I work as a development associate for James Madison University, my alumni. I graduated in 2013. Did a short stint with our wounded veterans. I worked about 5 years after graduation, working with our wounded veterans. Saw the good, bad, and ugly of what we put our men and women into. And my journey took me back to a place that I love, James Madison University. And like you mentioned, my job is to create meaningful connections with alumni, friends, supporters of the university, not only with, as you eloquently said, money, but it's just real engagement, real friendship, getting people to engage, because that makes for a stronger university.
Yeah, I love it. And I definitely were, being facetious about that because, I think a lot of when they get those phone calls, especially as alum, they're like, come on, man, I paid all this money to school, but I would say I give you mad shout out and mad credit is that you open up my eyes. That is more than that, right? Like seeing where this money that you contribute, how it gives back to the school and creates new opportunities, whether those are scholarships or a dope new building. And I think that gives that reaffirms a lot of school spirit and school pride, right? And then you share memories. But yeah, going back to it, how did you get in this space, right? Like, how did you get connected with this? And also, what did you study at JMU? I'm just curious, what did you study?
Absolutely. So I got a degree in anthropology, studying people and culture.
Shout out to the fellow liberal arts, history degree right there. I love it. All right, so you
exactly. So I got a degree in anthropology, and it was pretty crazy. When I was sitting on the quad for graduation, I remember our graduation speaker looked at this group and said, you know what, half your life has been in the time of war. And that really struck me at my core. I was 21, 22 years old sitting there, and I didn't realize that 9/11 happened when I was in the 5th grade. So that was my desire to serve, and I entered into a space and used my degree with a culture of people that I just didn't belong in. I don't have a military background, and here I am, green, coming out of college, asked to serve these men and women that I had nothing really in common with. So that's kind of how I used my degree. Quite selfishly, you saw a lot of success stories working with those men and women who served. You saw a lot of injuries. I was at Walter Reed just about every week welcoming somebody back that was on the wrong end of a bomb. And that just took an emotional toll. As a young gun coming out of college, 5 years was as long as I really could do. And it was just time to reset. I was good with people. I love people. They fill my cup. It gives me energy and connecting with people. So when I was on the job search again, I went back to a place that I loved and wanted to get back to. JMU gave me so much, and it was my opportunity to serve and give back in some capacity. So I found myself as a development officer or development associate, serving my the school I love, the school that grew me.
So what did you, obviously loving people, studying people, anthropology, what activities were you involved in at JMU, just in general as a student?
Yeah, I was a tour guide. That was a big defining moment for me with the student ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
So we had an organization, I think at the time was like 120 students that did not get paid, but we just loved our university and gave tours to prospective students. So that was a really defining moment for me. I had a core group of friends, and outside of that, it was just the friends and that one particular organization that really stuck.
Well, obviously, I mean, we're gonna obviously ask a most obvious question, but I feel like that giving tours of the school directly had some kind of positive influence on your job now, right? Like, can you explain some of those connections? Because I already see a connection, but I don't want to steal your thunder. Like being a student ambassador and then doing what you're doing, how do you think they were related?
Sure. As a student ambassador, you were the face of the university to these prospective students. You had the opportunity to physically tour them around the space and share your experience with them as a student. And it was real time, just the good, bad, and ugly of the university as you saw it through, an 18, 19, 20-year-old's eyes. I do the same thing today as a professional on campus. And the beautiful thing is I don't need to know the answer to every question. I don't need to know all of that. I just need to connect Phil with something back at his university that he lost touch with, or it was a defining moment that he hasn't been engaged with in the past. So it's really being the face of an organization or a school for that particular moment.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the connection. I think also just being on the grounds of the school over and over again, right? You get a connection to the buildings, you and then you share stories. And I bet you could be like, oh, this is Wilson Hall. This is, and I'm lighting up because I'm thinking about like all the places that you could just name drop. But you still continuously do that. One of the reasons we connected too was that you got me a little bit engaged. I'll give you mad shout out that, obviously I didn't get a lot of money to the school, but you got me involved was like, as an alum, you had me thinking about other ways to get involved, which I really credit you to, and I think that we could speak to that, obviously you working with a lot of alum. How do you, think about those? You didn't come to me with, here, I met you, let's talk about money. You came to me talking about, hey, let's talk about your JMU memories. And then before you know it, I'm reviewing scholarships. Like I'm not paying for them, but I'm reviewing them, like you got me thinking like, oh man, I need to give back, Matt, because of Matt's connection, he brought me back to giving back to the school. Maybe I can't give back money monetarily, but I'm gonna give back with time. But yeah, just, go about that, like how you connect with alum and you're at, I know it's development. I know you have goals to meet, but like how you go about it a different way to get people engaged. Cause I think that you do a great job doing that.
Well, I appreciate it. And I think I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to the organization that I work for. Like you said, we have success defined by money that's brought into the university to keep this university running. I'm in a long-term game, and I don't use the term game in the sense that I'm playing people, but my job is a long-term. I need to build long-lasting, true relationships with the university. Obviously, as somebody who attended the university, you have those things that make you inspired or want to give back to the university, whether it's time, talent, testimony, or your treasure, your hard-earned money. Mm-hmm. My job is to build those authentic relationships and get you engaged. I hope I'm with JMU for a very, very long time. But if that's not the case, I want you to leave with a good relationship of the university. You want to leave with that connection well beyond my years. And I think too, it makes me so happy. We're chatting here over Zoom and we can see each other, and I see your diploma behind you repping JMU.
Hey, let me pause too. Hey, everyone said you're the third person. That's my wife's jam. I think, yeah. Yeah, my wife's JMU, so that connection too, like both me and my wife. I claim it though. I got both her degrees here, and I got my JMU one up here. But yeah, I mean, but you speak to it too. Like both me and my wife are very proud of our school. But go back. I just think that's
No, and I appreciate what you can bring to the table is what's different than somebody else. And when you give back to the university through your experience as a working professional at a campus of higher education, that's only going to make that diploma hanging on the wall stronger. So yeah, absolutely. We need to continue to give back to the next generation. We need to keep the doors open for the university. But some of your life experiences to an on-campus student is even that much more valuable. So yeah,
I love
in the long-term relationship game.
And I love what you said. I mean, you put it in the pillars. What was those 3 pillars again? And you said it very, explain those. I think you touched upon it a little bit, but those 3 pillars that really what people can give back to things.
Sure. So your time, time is valuable. Your testimony. I want you to go out and recruit prospective students. I want you to talk about your JMU experience, because in the long run, that will help JMU. Your talents, you're a working professional who has real life experience. We need that back on our campus, and professors want that in our classroom, whether you're guest lecturing, mentoring a student, something along those lines. And then your treasures, that's the hard-earned money to keep the doors open, to provide student scholarships, to open up doors for other students. We're looking across a broad spectrum.
Yeah, and I love that because that's like I said, I think I'll give you a lot of credit about getting back engaged with alum, is that when I felt valued as an alum, that I can give back in other ways that are just as valuable. And it's just as rewarding. Now, honestly, I told you, I shared some of my big life goals. Maybe someday, I could do it and stunt and get some kind of little brick, a little bench on campus or whatnot to stunt with the treasure part. But I think you're the one that really, I never thought of that concept. Like that is very valuable for a lot of alum to hear, especially listening to this podcast, is that, those other ones could be life-changing as well, right? Like the testimonial part, like you sharing why you like someplace and someone else goes there just because they heard it from you, someone that they trust, then that's another generation. Maybe that could be a new leader that goes to the halls that you did, or the talent part, right? Like that mentorship. That's one of my biggest things, that mentoring young students. So I thought that was great. And I think a lot of times one of the biggest misconceptions about connecting monetarily is that it has to be big time. And I think you dropped some insight on me about how it doesn't necessarily always have to be big time to still make a difference. And can you go back and explain that one too?
Sure. So as a university, those monumental, those life-changing gifts, those $1 million and above are things that are absolutely huge to the success of a university. But when you look at donations to a school, it's like the food pyramid. Those monumental gifts are going to be at the top, but there's not a ton of them out there. We rely on that bottom, the Phils and the Matthews of the world that give the $5, $10, $20, $100 as much as we can. And I think I explained this to you, Phil. We had somebody who said it much more eloquently than I will today. Chiquita King, she came and spoke to a group of donors and was talking about, if you ever have a leaky roof and you put a bucket underneath that leaky roof, it's going to drop. But eventually the bucket's going to be filled. And I love that analogy because we've all had a leaky roof. We've all had that experience of putting a bucket and catching some water. And those are the donations that really do add up over time. JMU's in the last kind of phase of a big comprehensive campaign, and those donations are getting us through for sure. Don't think that their $5, $10, $100 donation isn't making a huge difference, because with a lot of other people, that's really what's helping the university survive.
Yeah, so it's like more spaced out. That is long game, and it's little, like, I guess 1,000 people giving a certain amount could equal that one person. And so It's more, it makes it more community feel. So honestly, on your end, I think we're on Zoom right now. I think one of the things that was really exceptionally doing really well before the pandemic was ripping up and down 81 and hitting the DMV and meeting people face to face and really connecting and engaging, coffees and all those things. So, how are you doing during this pandemic that we're still in? And two, like, how did you, still navigate this new space to feel like you're still making a connection with people? Because I think we're both extroverts. So I know this has been difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So personally, doing really well. I'm happy. I'm healthy. My loved ones are happy and healthy. So that's a blessing for sure. Professionally, you're absolutely right. Part of my job is running up and down Route 81 and getting coffees, dinners, anything to sit down and get that genuine connection with somebody. And that was the norm. That was how we formed real, authentic connections with people. And we've had to pivot. I think that was the word of 2020 was pivot. So we're doing a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of digital visits. The blessing about this pandemic, it has opened the door to other generations that might not be exposed to Zoom. My parents included, like, I don't think they were really the most comfortable with FaceTime or Zoom or any of these face-to-face platforms, but they know how to use it. They know how to set it up. And I think a lot of people do, JMU supporters included. So that's been huge. A lot of my time is on the phone, text message, and these face-to-face platforms. I think the challenge is, how do you find that authentic connection? Us extroverts and somebody who loves the physical touch of a handshake or a goodbye hug, how do you get that authentic connection through Zoom? I've always worked off of a model called the Ford model. It was created by a guy by the name of John DeJulius, who runs a chain of salons. He's written a couple books, and Ford stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. If I can talk to you about any of those things, I get a good grasp of who you are. Phil, I think, as you know, like, I don't hide who I am. We had a really interesting first introduction where you brought all that to the table. You brought literally a book of some of the dreams you have. And sometimes those are the hardest things to get from people. And those are things that people hold pretty close to the cuff. But I think you can still do that over Zoom. I think you can do that over a phone call. You just got to proceed with caution.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's true. And I think, I think the year of pivot, I think funny, I'm in an organization called VACE, Virginia Association of Colleges and Employers. It's like career centers, and their conference is called the Year of the Pivot. That's the conference title. So, hey man, you should have trademarked it. You get a little coin off of that. I think a bunch of conferences are going to use pivot or whatever. So, but I think moving forward is connect you with a different audience. I know that particularly you're ripping around Virginia, but has this allowed you? Are you doing more digital connections with people maybe outside of your normal because of Zoom?
Like, absolutely. Like we're tearing down territories. You did an awesome job connecting me with a friend who lives up in Canada. And we jumped on a Zoom call and had, I don't know, probably an hour and a half conversation, no connection with JMU, but somebody who knew a different world when we were dealing with some of the racial tensions and continue to deal. You connected me with somebody to just have a good conversation with, to help me grow personally and professionally, somebody in your network that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to have that quote unquote face-to-face visit. We jumped on a call in different time zones, found a time that worked, and had a really authentic conversation. It's invaluable. It has torn down some of those restrictions based off how far I can drive in a day.
So moving forward, how do you think this is going to change, just from your understanding? Like, I can tell you how my understanding of higher ed is going to change, right? Like more remote opportunities in classrooms, and, maybe even teleworking is going to change. Like, I don't need to come nowhere. I don't need to go into an office as often. How do you think this is going to change the development space, or just your niche in higher ed? Or because I believe you're a higher ed professional like me, right? Like,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you may be a businessman in the business sector or whatever, but you're a business professional now in higher education because you're on a college campus.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think some of these digital connections are really going to stick long term. The hustle and bustle of DC life. People have very, very busy schedules, and a large portion of my job is behind a computer screen, making sure that I get that face-to-face time with folks. Whereas in the past, thanks, Matthew, I appreciate the email. Not a good week for me. Well, do you have 20 minutes to jump on a call or jump on a face-to-face visit? I'm not going to require as much time. I would love to just get in front of you, hear about your JMU experience. Well, we don't have to be in a coffee shop. You don't have to stop your day for lunch to come meet me. Like, let's just jump on a call in your office, or you're picking your kids up for daycare. Like, you got that 10 minutes in the car. You might jump on a call, whereas we were pretty constricted of the real value in my job was sitting down with somebody. So I think we're going to change in that sense. I think you're absolutely right, though. Higher education as a whole is going to continue and evolve and change.
So what about, and I was thinking, I think of questions while I'm going, obviously I'm gonna name this episode More Than the Money Part 2, because, but when for you, did you see like, wow, okay, paychecks and donations, like I saw that this work that I'm doing actually changed something, like made a difference. A tangible example for you when you saw that.
Yeah, that's great. So pre-pandemic, when I was working in the office every single day, we have a program on our campus called the Centennial Scholars, and it's for first generation college students. And part of that scholarship is these students had to work at various locations on campus. And I got really, really close with this gentleman who worked the front desk. And the kid was not only an exceptional student, but just an exceptional man. Like his honesty, his transparency, his story was something that I saw every single day. He was greeting everyone with a smile and was so grateful for the opportunity. I had nothing to do with the scholarship that sent him through college, but like I got to be on the receiving end of that just pure kindness and gratitude for somebody else's generosity. And it was an amazing reminder every time I walked through that door to be greeted by somebody who had the opportunity to be there and was grateful for it because of somebody else's generosity. Chris, man, he's an exceptional young man who's going to do awesome things. And it's all because somebody gave him a hand up and not a handout. And it was pretty inspiring.
Well, shout out too, because you did say Centennial. I know many. I think Jaquita herself was a Centennial Scholar. And so look at the impact that she had. So like, I think that's a great example. I'm glad you brought it up because I know many people in my JMU experience that were Centennial Scholars. And so that is impactful. And I'm glad you brought that up as a actual tangible example of where you see where it's going. Like you see, I think that's why I love, when I was reading scholarship essays and whatnot, and doing it. But I don't really, honestly, that part is boring. I ain't gonna lie, reading the scholarships, but I love the reception stuff, the galas or the banquets where you see the kid get it. But then honestly, if speaking to the history major, I love following up where you see like, where are they now? And you see where they went. And I was like, okay, that's where this is all making sense. This is where, the dollars that you donate made a difference, a tangible impact, connecting those stories. So I think that was a great example. I think one of the things I would say, and I wanted to ask, because I don't know, we got plenty of time because I got a couple more questions. Do you think that it reinfused your love of JMU, this work, or, did it, like adult, like, because you work on it and you see the money, it kind of gave you that like not idealistic view anymore. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I like you're a grown up now, and like the Wizard of Oz curtain is gone. You're like, dang, like this is what it looks like behind the scenes. Like this is not as dream la la land as I thought it was, or maybe seeing the guy with the different curtains doing it. I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of magic happening because this dude's working hard behind the scenes. Which one was it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I love that question. That was a big holdup before I applied to JMU. You hold this memory, your 4 college years in such high standards that it was the perfect time. And I was nervous to go behind the scenes and see how the sausage was actually made. Yeah. And when I came to JMU, I remain inspired. The people who I work with are there for the right reasons. The professors are there for the students. My job as a development associate is to keep that going. You go through college with such blinders on that it's you going to classes, getting your education. There's a whole organization, there's a whole business running behind the scenes. Being part of that business to keep the doors open to the university has really been inspiring. And I attribute that to the people that I work with. These men and women have their priorities in order to keep the doors open and keep providing something. I love the question that I consider: if GMU, if your institution was gone, what would the world be missing? I continue to show up to work each day because if I know that JMU, if that was gone, there would be a hole in the society that we live in Virginia's education system, producing some exceptional young men and women into the workforce, some people that, are not just good at their job, but are good at relationships. And that's what keeps me coming back to work each day. And I think people that I work with have a similar mindset and a similar belief that what we are doing is good. And I've been really, really lucky to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah, I was about to say, even behind the scenes, nothing is idealistic, nothing's perfect. But I think I like that question. I think if this wasn't, even this system, which has flaws, all systems have flaws, government all have flaws. But if, even with the flaws, if this did not exist, the consequences would be worse than the flawed one, right? I think, and I love that. I'm gonna use that reframing because, like you say, maybe this is not a perfect place, but if it didn't exist, there wouldn't be the Jaquita Kings and the Matt Higgins and I don't know,
Philip Wilkerson.
I wasn't trying to throw myself as some famous alum, but I was trying to say, but there wouldn't have been people that got their first start at a career. Education is the doorway to a career, and if that door to that career wasn't existing, there's a lot of people that wouldn't start, and then it'd be like that weird kind of like It's a Wonderful Life seal, if that person didn't pivot, there'd have been insurmountable consequences. So I love that. That's going to keep me focused on making a difference wherever I'm at, because you never know what changes that will make what impact that will have. So that's cool. I like that.
Sure. My father used to say too, education, no one can take that away from you. Once you have it, there's no one that can take it away from you, not even a global pandemic. I remain extremely blessed today that I made it through 2020 with an education that nobody can take away from me, that opened doors for me and continued for me to be so lucky in such a world. And I do know that a lot of folks haven't been as lucky and have come on hard times. But the one thing is I will continue to have that education that JMU provided to me. And how can I get the next generation to get a similar experience?
Right. So with this Zoom life, right, I know it's been really hard because a lot of, especially in development, right, a lot of the things, not say incentivized, but a lot of, I can even speak to my experience where it's a lot of you donate money and you get to do something fun, tickets to the football game, you know what I'm saying? So how have you been creative in this space with you can't really do the fun stuff with the money. So how have you engaged alum fun activities wise that weren't physical?
Sure. So we got creative in sending gift cards to folks to have digital coffees. It's a small expense out of my pocket that I can give you. Here, our coffee's on me. Let's sit and have 20 minutes to chat. So those small things, we still, I'm not a huge believer in the swag, in sending somebody something to meet with me. I don't want anything to meet with somebody from JMU. I just want their time and I want to talk about how I can help the university. But we have tried to be creative as far as the football games, those opportunities to bring people back to campus, to engage them in a university that they love. It's the tour guide thing. It's once you walk our campus, you'll fall in love with certain aspects once you see it and touch it. I joke, I used to work in a jewelry store and you're like, Phil, where's this going to go with this? But if you were selling somebody a piece of jewelry, they would love it. But as soon as you put it on their hand or put that bracelet on their wrist and saw themselves with it, that's where it is. That's where the sale comes from, is seeing yourself. So those football games, we've tried to be creative. We just getting people back into our basketball arena in very limited capacity. But again, it's a lot of those engagement events based off of Zoom, getting JMU alumni to connect with each other in groups. We're dealing with the isolation in 2020. So meet people with a similar experience or a similar background and just chat on Zoom, these smaller groups. So we're trying to remain creative.
Yeah, I mean, you said it too. Like, I definitely looking to the day to get back. I haven't been on campus. I think that would definitely, you're a handsome guy. No shade there, but there's nothing like the actual physical seeing the school, man. I tell you, I will not shade. Definitely not get in trouble with my employers, but JMU is probably one of the prettiest schools in Virginia, just where it's located, straight location. Like the with the mountains and all that. No shade to suburban Mason, but it's a pretty campus too. I can't get in trouble here. But I think that's right. Like I think that there's not. I think our experiences. That's one of the things I'm holding on to is that I think your job is going to be easier and my job is going to be easier when we get back to some form of normalcy. Because I think a lot of the real connection of being in each other's presence is going to change the game. I ain't gonna lie, this whole time has made me very grateful about how important it is to connect with people. I'm just so ready to be connected with people normally. So ready in my mind.
Well, and just touching on one thing is, I remember when we met one time, and you took me just through the campus at JMU. I have no connection to Mason, but you showed me, and I remember distinctly some of the benches that were painted for different student organizations. I remember some of the plans that were almost into fruition, I believe, to create a monument to some of Mason's slaves. And those were huge impacts on me, who somebody who has no connection with Mason, but the actual walking of that campus, the seeing, the touching, the grand vision being on your campus inspired me, and I had no connection to that. So we're definitely missing that on-campus feel. So how do we recreate that in a digital world? I took a tour just the other day of somebody who named a space on campus, and the power of FaceTime to walk through that building and bring them with me on a little digital tour was really, really effective to show them their impact when they weren't able to go inside the buildings. So we just got to continue to remain creative.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that. That definitely physical monuments make a difference. When people think, oh, they're just buildings with names on them. Like, no, they're really impactful for a lot of people. Names on the, when something's named after someone, that's a legacy and you can see it. I mean, in monuments and statues. And I know a lot of people are like, but you're just building art, right? But no, like, there's a lot of meaning behind those things, and they're transformative. Like, I think over time you kind of look at them and say, yeah, that's just a building, right? But if you really focus on the meanings of monuments, they make a difference. I'm going on a tangent about monuments and the Washington D.C. monuments, but like you said, like anything where a statue, the statue of James Madison, the little, I think isn't it like life size? And so you'd be like thinking about like life size, like how tall he was or not tall, and how often people used to take pictures with him. I mean, those are things that like gives you school spirit. I think everyone has taken a picture with James Madison, like with him, and similar to George Mason too. Like those are things that connect. And I think this is really going to reinforce that we should be grateful when we get to be back on a physical space, how important that is, and how I'm not going to take it for granted again.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a segment of the show. It's called Shot for Shot. This is a random, I get to ask you any random question, get to ask me any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first. Actually, I want to do two shots with you because I haven't done that in a while. So it's like a catching up for me. So I'm going to do two shots. You get to do two shots with me.
Perfect. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. What is your favorite JMU memory? As a student, not as a professional, as a student.
I met a very special young lady there who I have been in a long-term relationship with for many years. So Courtney, my girlfriend, I ran into her first day freshman year, and the rest is history. So
hey, early freshman. Were you a freshman too?
Yep.
Sheesh.
She lived 2 floors above me in Dingledine Hall. So
that was it. It was just in the same hall.
That was it. That was it.
You didn't even, you just off the break. It was like, I'm in, like, dang, just the first week of school. Yeah. That's crazy.
First week of school.
Oh, my goodness. What does she study? I'm curious.
She studied education, so she's a 5th grade teacher.
Wow. Did y'all do the kissing rock picture too?
We did not. No. you got to kiss on that rock, you're going to get married. So I want to be really sure. No, you're going to get me in trouble, man.
No, I did. You know I did that. But I did that after I was engaged too. So I don't think that counts. I did, we kissed on that rock. Me and my wife kissed on that rock when we came back as alum. So I think that's a little different. All right. What's your question for me?
What is the biggest life lesson you took out of 2020 that you're going to carry with you?
Oh, yeah. So definitely one of the biggest lessons, I think, was, in regards to all the upheaval and racism and all that crazy stuff that was going on. It's going to be rooted back into the gratitude part. Definitely what saved my mental health in a good way was, practicing routinely gratitude. I use a 5-minute journal and just really honing in that I think every day I used to say family and friends, family and friends, family and friends. Because you have to do like 3 things you're grateful for every day. And I was just, those are always my constant, family and friends, every single one of my 3s. And I think I usually say this, about resiliency, is that 2020 was like playing life on All Pro for Madden, or wearing a weighted vest and training with a weighted vest. That the difficulty of life was turned all the way up. And so that's what I say in my mind. Like, this is everyone's test of resiliency. So that when we take off this weighted vest, or we dial off All Pro, we're like, we're going to be running on all cylinders. I keep on saying that to myself, like, oh, it's going to be easier. Maybe it won't be, but I'd say that to myself. Those are the things I say in my head. Like, it's going to be easier once we can go back, once like my kids can go back to school, once I can see I say that maybe life will always be difficult, but like, it's that innate sense. I think it trained me to be optimistic. This 2020, it was like, look for the future. Also look at the present too, about what I'm grateful for with my family and friends. So I think the big lessons was resiliency and optimism. Actually 3: resiliency, optimism, and gratitude. Those are those things that kept me through this year. And like I said, 2021 started off pretty intense as well. So I don't know. Maybe this is supposed to be a 2-year lesson. Like this is an extended lesson. It's not just a 1-year lesson. And I would say there's another tangent, but I would say one of the things too is that adversity and difficult times for me have always been people filters. Meaning, when life is easy and good, you don't, whatever, you hear from everybody. When life is difficult, you hear from the few people. And not to say other people are not good friends or not, but I'm just saying the top rise up, I'm saying, like your core people do. And my core did. My core people showed up, regardless if it had to be a Zoom or social distance or whatever. They showed up. So I'm really grateful. I think the gratitude really stood out. All right.
Love it.
My number 2 question for you: if you could make your own university, like make it, like Sim City, and where would you can make it up, like you don't have to be like, don't say, oh, I love JMU so much. What kind of school would you make? Would it be city or in the country? And what kind of buildings would it look like?
Nice.
So make your own school and then name it too. What would the name of the school be?
Perfect. Man.
And where?
So I would say in some sort of western state, Montana, Idaho.
Okay.
I'm a big fly fisherman, so I would put my perfect university near plenty of fly fishing waters, in nice mountains, and
Okay.
you know, you get the seasons, you get the nice cold winter, which just makes you appreciate the beautiful spring and summer. So a place like that, I think a liberal arts college. I was fortunate enough to go to a university where the professors cared about the students, and I would want to make sure that it's really dedicated to the students and teaching a wide range. Although you're in, you know, an anthropology major, you're still getting the math and the science classes to make you well-rounded. As far as the name goes, man.
Oh, I was about to say, you're so nice. I was about to say, just name it after yourself.
Yeah.
Higgins U or something like that. I don't know. You're so humble.
Yeah. I feel like I would go with a Gandhi, like somebody who made a lasting impact for good on the world. Maybe someday I'll be there to name a university out myself, but one day at a time, you know, be a positive member of society. But I'm no Gandhi quite yet.
No, Mahatma U. I like that. Mahatma U. Or
Yeah.
Mahatma Institute. Okay. I don't know the difference between a university or college, whatever. I think a college is like liberal or something. I don't know. Liberal arts is college. I don't know, but there you go. And hey, maybe my boy, he'll tell you how it is out in Boise, Idaho. So that's where one of my best friends lives. So
perfect.
All right. This is your second question for me. And then
perfect. I'm gonna go with the standard. If you could be a fly on the wall at any point in history, you couldn't have an impact on it, but you're just there to see what's going on, where would you be and why?
I love how you said that, because usually when people tell me the what you call it, go back in time story, I'm like, I don't want to go back in time, because, you know, not every time was fun for a black male. But if I could do it as a fly on the wall, which is it more about, I mean, like, because I can see without, you know, bad stuff happening. I would love to go. There's two places in history I'd love to go to. One that's like historic, and then one that's personal. One, I would love to just be a fly on the wall for my grandfather when he went to college. That's just crazy to me that my grandfather went to college at Johnson C. Smith and pledged Kappa and did all these things, became a doctor. I would love to just see what college was like for him. I think it was in the 1940s. In Charlotte, and just go in a time machine and see, you know, how parents, and they always change, like, you know, like he was like, I was so clean cut, go back in time. He was turned up and ratchet and just, you know, just off the wall, off the chain. You know, I'd love to see that, see how he was when he was young. So that would be mine. Go shadow my grandfather while he was in college. And then another one would be, I would love to just go to, not the actual marches for Martin Luther King. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to see people getting hosed and all that stuff. That sounds not fun. But I would love to see how he, like, by himself wrote, or by himself practiced his speeches. That's what I would love to see. Like, see like how someone you look up to, we always see the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, we see his speeches, but I'm pretty sure that he wrote it out a bunch of times. It's like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that one. Or he would, you know, I know he practiced on his friends or practiced on his wife and stood up, and I was like, and they're like, no, I don't like that line. That joke's corny. And he'd be like, for real? Like, I thought that was good, you know, and people teasing him and stuff. I would love to do those moments where I would love to see the people we look up to, but not them on stage. I like to see how they're behind the scenes when they were nervous, or they had to practice, or they had to, like, rehearse or write it out, because, you know, he wrote what he had to say and all that stuff, and scrabbled and say, no, I don't like that, maybe this, or read a book. Oh, that's a good one. So that's the fly on the wall. So my grandfather and, like, Martin Luther King, while he was preparing, you know, to change the world.
Like that.
Because he probably was, probably not as fun as we think it is. It's probably probably just drinking whiskey or whatever and like writing a lot. I know he read a lot, so I don't know. He probably wrote a lot too. All right, well that was great. I was really interested. I'm gonna do plugs for you already. If you're a JMU alum and you listen to this episode, give money to JMU. I'm joking, but like just definitely connect with the Alumni Association or anyone. And this could also go back for Mason as well. I think all alumni have a, not say obligation, but I think you get invested when you get back. You feel that regardless of the two things, scholarships, anything where it has, I'd say my main thing is something that's related to an endowment or scholarship, because you actually see how those endowments and scholarships change lives. So either school. So, if you're an alum, look up your alumni association, look up the scholarship part and, donate the $5, $20, but make it specific to the scholarship or school that you went to, the college, the department that you went to, because, that will make a tangible difference, So that's my plug for you. But I want to give you an opportunity. So this is the part of the show called Shout Outs and Plugs. You get to shout out anyone you want to shout out, and then plug anything that you want people to listen to. I'll make sure I'm going to take notes of all your plugs and put them in the show notes so that whoever listens to this can follow it with the resources you share. So stage is set. Shout outs and plugs.
Perfect. Well, shout out first. Thanks so much for having me, Phil. I appreciate the message that you try to carry and do it successfully and just having me on to share what's going on in the JMU world, what's going on in my life personally. Anybody that's listening who wants to chat, HIGGINMC@jmu.edu. Feel free to shoot me an email. Would love to chat with you. Whether you're associated with JMU or not, whether it's something struck a chord today, I would love to have a conversation. Shout out to my support system, the friends and family in my life, my parents, my brother. My brother recently got married, so big shout out there, and added somebody new to the family, my rock, my support system, my girlfriend, Courtney. I want to thank her for letting me take a chance and go down to my alma mater, which was not anywhere near where she was living. So huge shout out there. As far as plugs go, I think that's very individualized. Continue to follow what makes you passionate. Continue to keep educating yourself. No one can take that education away from you, whether you're doing it through yourself or a four-year institution like JMU. Continue to just follow the passion. If I can help you achieve those dreams, please shoot me a call, shoot me a text, shoot me an email.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you so much. Listeners, please check out this episode and share with your friends. If you have a question for the podcast, you can leave it with the hotline. That's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Spreading positivity is a movement. Thank you for listening, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity a Movement. Thanks for listening.